my encouragement to people is to really take the time to look at where are you at today, and is that the thing that's lighting you up and getting you excited? Because you have to make time for that. My wife and I were newly married, and I just said, what do you think about me, like, starting a business? And she was all for it. We hardly made any money. We didn't have, much debt at all. So it was just kind of like, yeah, let's try it. And, we didn't know if it was risky or dumb, but we just gave it a shot, and it worked.
Today's episode of The Pro Guide is brought to you by Small Pond Productions, the producers of this podcast. If you're looking to boost your brand's voice with professional end-to-end podcast production, whether it's an interview show or telling stories with audio, we walk you through every step of the process to make you sound great. Head to our website and download the free Podcasting Made Simple guide. 8 critical things you need to know before launching your brand's podcast. It's all available at smallpond.productions. Well, welcome everybody to this episode of The Pro Guide. My name's Andrew J. Mason, and today we're hanging out with a leader in the realm of video production. Ryan Koral is the founder of Tell Studios, Studio Sherpas, and latest Enroll Films. Ryan, I would consider to be an educator, a business mentor. He brings really the soul of storytelling to the forefront of a person's brand strategy, a business's brand strategy. And very honored to call him friend. Ryan, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, man.
Andrew, it's a pleasure to be here. I love what you're doing, and thanks for letting me be a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, first, I'd love if you could just rewind and give us a little bit of that origin story for Tell Studios. It's been around for over a decade, and I know that your narrative of video and passion for storytelling through video really runs a lot deeper than that, but just give us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so today Tell Studios is that's my bread and butter. I've got a team working in that production studio, and it all started a long time ago. Growing up, I had a fascination for creating, and I had a dream. I remember this recently. I dreamed for so long to be an actor, to be on TV. I just thought that would be the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And it was hard. We didn't have a video camera growing up. My dad took a lot of photos. He had some cool cameras and lenses and whatever, but I never got into that as a kiddo. But in middle school, my best friend's dad bought a video camera, and we started making cartoons and movie. When I say cartoons, we were in Microsoft Paint, and we would draw a picture, and then we would erase, and then we would do Control Z, so undo, and it was two frames
by frame. Yes.
But it was so fun, and we got to be creative. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, so we were bored and would just come up with silly things to make, and we made all sorts of zombie movies and boxing movies and ketchup and all of the things that you need for those types of movies. And it was so fun. But, as I got older and I thought about career video or film, that just wasn't something that I thought was an option. There was no digital, filmmaking or anything like that. So pretty much anything that I could have done would have been out of reach financially and all that stuff until, I ended up in college, and I ended up working at the little university that I went to in the enrollment department. And this was in 2002 when I started working there. And I think right around that same time is when Apple came out they had a new laptop, and they had this thing called a FireWire port, and video cameras. Now, they were called digital video cameras because you could plug in a FireWire cable to a computer and essentially take any footage that you just shot and put it onto a computer and then edit it instead of using tape, which tape took so long, and it took really expensive equipment. And so I somehow had convinced my boss to buy me a video camera and a new Apple laptop so that I could start making videos to help promote the school.
Wow.
And that's where my love for storytelling really was able to take shape. And eventually, as I was making these videos for the school and for some other just random people, I was making some videos for the church that we were attending. and realized that this is all I wanted to do. I just wanted to make movies. And so I would eventually leave the school. My wife and I were newly married, and I just said, what do you think about me, like, starting a business? And she was all for it. We hardly made any money. We didn't have, much debt at all. So it was just kind of like, yeah, let's try it. And, we didn't know if it was risky or dumb, but we just gave it a shot, and it worked. Slowly and surely people were finding out that I was doing video, and we were getting hired here, there, and everywhere. And I fell into wedding filmmaking for a number of years, which was super fun, because when you film weddings, you kind of you got to nail the shot. You only get one opportunity. You have to figure out how to shoot inside, outside, bad audio situations, windy, echoey, bad lighting situations, tough people to work for, just like all of the things. And it was really, really awesome. I learned so much, and I loved learning, and I started connecting with other filmmakers and building a community and sharing ideas and speaking at conferences, and just learning as much as I could and sharing as much as I could. And then it was about 11 years ago when I launched our corporate storytelling brand, Tell Studio, which today is called Tell Studios. And that kind of changed the trajectory of things. We started making a lot more money, and I didn't have to work on weekends anymore, and my team got bigger, and I was learning differently. Like there were different things to learn when you're not filming an event, and you got to grab the moment. It's like, hey, we could take our time lighting this and kind of digging into the story more. And so today, the way that the work looks like for us, we work with a lot of businesses and brands and tell these 2 to 5 minute documentary style pieces that really get to the heart and soul of who a brand is and why they matter, why they care, what they care about, in hopes that they can connect with their ideal clients. And then you mentioned, you're like, oh, this guy's got like 3 businesses going on. Well, the new launch, Enroll Films, is really just a niche down version of what we're doing inside of Tell Studios, and it's really focused on higher ed storytelling. So we're working with universities to get to the heart and soul of who they are and to tell their stories. Students, alumni, create pieces that differentiate themselves. So that's my story.
Brilliant.
And thanks for having me on. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. No, it was brilliant and beautiful. And I love I actually did love that you took us down that kind of winding path, because you see this, and over time, you don't know, what kind of story arc is getting formulated in your life as you're living it out. But as you look back and you see the clarity there, and you're like, oh, okay, this is kind of where I'm headed. I'd love to know, do you have a moment or maybe a process of time where making videos went from like, hey, this is fun and this is neat, to, oh my gosh, we actually got a legitimate reaction out of this, or people came up to me and said, Ryan, this is good, man. Like, this is actually really good. Like, you saw somebody shed a tear for whatever, for better or for worse. Just something happened where it's like, this is a real thing, possibly, for me.
Yeah, I remember. I went to this tiny little Christian school that didn't have any university that didn't have, hardly budgets for anything. So when I made the first video that, helped promote the school, people's jaws dropped, and I look back and I'm thinking about, those pieces, and I'm like, they were so bad, but it was like they didn't have anything else to compare it to, right? Yeah, burn it all. So for a long time, I got such great feedback, and they're when you're creating pieces that are soulful, right? You get like powerful stories, and so people have set the stage for us to look really good, right? When we were filming these high-end luxury weddings, it was hard to get a bad shot. People were like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are so great." It's like, yeah, well, do you see how gorgeous everything is? Like, it's hard to mess this up. And the same thing when you're telling powerful stories, like, it's hard to mess that up. So I think from very early in my career, even when I was at the university, I saw the power and the power of story and the power of capturing imagery and cutting it down, cutting the fat and just like creating something that is more consumable for people like us. And so that's why I was hooked from early early on. I got such great feedback until I did have one person. He was the youth pastor at this church that I was doing a lot of stuff for. And he was the first person to actually push back on my first draft of an edit. Up until that point, everybody loved everything I did, and nobody ever said a mean thing or criticism or anything. And then this guy Tom says, "Oh, the font's too big, video's too long. Tighten it up." And I was like, I took a step back, but I was like, "This is awesome," because I felt like for me, I that's how I learn. I learn by constructive feedback. And so that was a great season where I did a lot of work with him and learned a lot on how to be a better shooter and a better editor and a better, more succinct storyteller.
So good. Man, there's like 300 directions I want to take this right now, but we got to keep it
300
literally. Dude, so I'm thinking about your transition to add Studio Sherpas to the mix, and you start helping other people start to navigate some of the challenges that you encounter yourself, with Tell Studios. And this sense in which, we want still to have that magical moment where emotion happens in a video or people are called to action in some way or something happens there. But the challenges that you're dealing with are no longer just behind the camera. You're also dealing with, scale. How do we make sure operations are running? How do we systematize things? How is there a point in your journey where you have this sense in which it's like, okay, now I've got some experience with the business side of all of this, and maybe some of this expertise is valuable for other people as well?
Yeah, Studio Sherpas is our education brand for filmmakers. And I love creativity. I love making stuff, but I also really love how it works and how do you build a business that can stick around for more than just a couple of years. Profitability, marketing. I love marketing. I love branding. I've loved trying to figure out how to sell better. I've loved building a team and creating a culture. Like, all of those things are just so fun. So at some point, it made sense to turn this into something that could be profitable, because I gave away so much of my time, and I still give away a lot of my time in this.
Yeah.
This brand is really just a natural extension of who I am. I love learning, and I love sharing what I'm learning. And I do remember, like, it was really early on in my professional career in running a business where I felt like, oh man, I just learned that. I want to share that with somebody. And so that has always been with me. And then, I became very involved with our local video association. It was called the Michigan Independent Videographers Association, longest name ever. I was super involved with that group. Eventually would become the president of that group, and we would have monthly meetings. I would get to bring in speakers and just always loved, we talked gear and stuff like that. But then we talked about, like, how much are you charging for that? And like, what's included in that? And how are you breaking that down? How are you getting people to pay that much money? And I just loved those conversations. And I would learn, even as I'm sharing amongst people my own stuff. I'm learning more. I like to process out loud and to hear myself talk. Like, being on your show, I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm learning a lot about myself here. I really like to talk. I invested so much time with this organization, and I would speak at other events and conferences and whatever to other filmmakers. And at this point, we had 2 kids, and my wife and I were having these conversations. I was like, hey, I'm head of this event again. And she pushed back and was like, man, you're spending a lot of time in this. Like, can you make money doing this? And I was like, I can, but I feel guilty because I love this so much. But then it just got me thinking, like, could I monetize this? Like, is it okay to monetize education and something that I'm so passionate about? And shortly thereafter, probably within a year or so, our podcast had launched, and I was able to just show up every week and say, I'm not getting paid for this, but if I want this to be sustainable, if I want to keep doing this, then I've got to figure out ways to make this. And so we have, online courses. we've got the Mastermind that you're a part of. I've got a coaching group. I've created all these opportunities out of this education brand to make it a successful side hustle. I mean, it's very fun and fulfilling. I got an email this morning from a guy who 2 years ago had bought one of our programs, and he was just updating me. He's like, I haven't reached out in a bit, and reading his successes and the fact that he took time to let me know. I'm like, this is amazing. This is super fun. And so I'm grateful that I get to have one foot in the world of production and storytelling, and then I have another foot in education and helping people build things. I don't have it all figured out by far, but I do know it's really important to, even if I'm barely a step ahead of somebody else, how that can help the person right beside me or right behind me. And I'm always looking for people that are ahead of me that can share and teach and guide me.
I was actually just about to ask about that. So that Mastermind you mentioned that I'm a part of, that you're facilitating. Full disclosure, this thing has been so pivotal for my personal and business growth this year. And it's not an insane amount of touch points, but just the level of accessibility that you have, and then also the level of personal, just this desire to give that everybody else in the group has. It just creates this environment where you get to figure things out pretty quickly. I think that one of the differences I see between us is growing up, if I go a decade back for myself, criticism was hard for me. I don't know why, but it's like, okay, I've created the best thing. You've poured your heart and soul out. It's hard to dissociate from that and say it's just the art, not the artist. And man, it was tough, but I've learned to love it over time. What for you? Was it just kind of innate in you? Like, okay, this is how I get better. I mean, I want to get better faster, so this is what I do. And in what ways are you? You mentioned, pursuing growth yourself. Are you in a mastermind yourself? Are there other areas that you're looking to continue to grow yourself?
Yeah, I just finished watching this morning during my workout the new Netflix documentary Sly with Sylvester Stallone. And you do know Sylvester Stallone, right?
I do.
Okay. for a second there, I was like, wait, does he even know who I'm talking about? I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening? The divide. I was reflecting as I'm watching this movie, and even hearing you ask this question. I think as a young kid, I would watch movies like Karate Kid and Star Wars, and I always loved seeing the hero of the story who had a guide, who had somebody come alongside them and push back, and then the hero pushes back and is like, no, I've got this thing figured out. So I think I've always desired that, and I've never really kind of put it like this. Maybe because the 80s movies are just fresh in my brain as I finished watching that documentary this morning. But I think I've always craved, how do I become the best, and or at least better than I was yesterday. And I think the movies, the heartbeat behind those movies, it's like, you as the hero, you don't figure this out on your own.
That's right.
I sit on the shoulder of giants. And I think I've just been open to that, always looking to who can help me, who can guide me, to make me or to help me become better. So I think I'm trying to think, have I ever been offended by somebody who didn't like my work or didn't like and maybe, but probably more so because it wasn't done tactfully. Tactfully. Yes, that's the word. Thank you. It wasn't done tactfully, and it was more like, I don't think this person actually likes me or wants the best for me, and I can sense that. And so that's more just like, I don't like how this person doesn't like me versus I don't like how they don't like this piece. So does that help answer that?
It does.
Part
Yeah,
of the
it's a nuanced distinction, but I think once we pay attention to it, it really does matter, and it makes a difference. I love this positioning for growth that you're constantly in. So it kind of puts you as a channel for flowing, like good stuff coming in, sharing the good stuff with everybody. Hey, I don't know it all, but here's what I know. And I see kind of that energy getting directed, or the sense of direction towards like, hey, Enroll Films feels like a next step for me, and not at the expense of the other stuff, but let's kind of refine that a little bit more too. Just give us a couple paragraphs about what Enroll Films is all about, because I think this is a really cool idea.
Yeah. The second part of your question I forgot to answer about being in a mastermind. So I am facilitating the mastermind that you're in, yes, but I also have found a ton of value of being a member, a paid member of a mastermind for the past couple of years. And it's been valuable, very, very valuable. I've been in 2 different masterminds with 2 different facilitators, and they've both have just really enriched my life, my network. Have helped me get out of my head and actually do the thing. So that's been such a huge investment, and I don't see myself ever not being a part of a mastermind, if nothing more than just having a group of like-minded people that have my back. I mean, that's incredibly, and we have an amazing community of friends that we live near, that we moved near here in this little town. But on a business side, they don't.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody really knows what I do, for a business.
Yeah.
So having a group that I've said, hey, these people, they get me, and I want to invest with these people. That's been very, very valuable. Enroll Films. Do you want me to go there, or you've got something
hit it.
else?
Go ahead. You're good. Go for it.
Yeah. So Enroll Films. The concept or the idea came on the heels of us finishing probably one of my favorite pieces, or like top 3 favorite pieces that we've ever done in almost 20 years. And it was a documentary on a university basketball coach who had an incredible career, but had like nothing, didn't have a gym, didn't have a home gym. Like they never had a home game. He won national championships and had to play at like the local high schools or wherever they could get in. And this guy's legacy, the way that he loved his players and spoke life into them and was, their guide, just an incredible human. Well, this is the same guy who I met 20 plus years ago, and he was impressed by whatever he saw in me, and he introduced me to his boss, who was the president of the university, and the president of the university really wanted me to go to that school, and they gave me this scholarship I could not turn down.
Wow.
And so I ended up at this university, which is the same university that I started working at after I graduated, got a computer, got a video camera, started down this video production lane that I never would have dreamed of. And so the university came to me and said, hey, all these years later, we're going to do a documentary on this basketball coach. Would you like to do it? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is my whole life, like full circle moment here. Of course. So we did this documentary, and upon completing it, I just said, this is it. These are the stories that I want to tell. I've just got so much of my life was changed in college, living there for 4 years. I met my wife there. I met some of our closest, dearest friends, and had all of these amazing experiences. And then I know some of the challenges that higher ed is facing today that are very unique. And I believe that stories paired with a powerful mission, there's no better combo. And it's a world that I know and that I'm familiar with, and that resonates in the deepest part of my soul. So I said, what would it look like if we doubled down and just said, let's work with higher ed institutions and tell the stories that are inside of there. And it's when I started thinking like that, I was like, oh, baby, this is, I feel like I'm going to be unstoppable here, just because of my excitement and passion. So yeah, that's, we kind of did a soft launch of that brand. I don't know, 2-3 months ago. Our new podcast just launched this week. And it's exciting. I'm very excited to see what happens.
Yeah. And, first episode is the guy, the coach as well. Isn't that right? Yeah.
First episode is Garth. His name is Garth, Coach Pleasant. I was really like putting all this pressure on myself. Episode 1, it's got to be great. It's got to be, you got to capture people's attention. And I wasn't sure like what to do with episode 1. And I was like, oh, Garth, I got to have Garth on. I mean,
Absolutely.
we did this documentary, but I was like, that's fine. Like, let's get it. Let's bring him in and let me introduce him to, everybody else. So, it was really fun. He actually came to the studio and we filmed that there cause he's local. And that was just, that was really fun to have him on episode 1. And next week we got episode 2 and it's, brand new friend of mine. So it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. And what a great place to start too. It's like this person that's invested so much of his belief in himself and you, and just kind of seeing, you mentioned full circle, that whole thing come through full circle one more time. It's so cool. I love, if you would maybe share, because this is such a story. In my mind, it's a great story of success. I don't want to paint it all one-sided as well. Do you have anything that comes to mind when we would present a particularly challenging moment in your business journey, and any kind of lesson that you took along the way for that you might be able to pass on to folks as well? The way I kind of present it, sometimes failure is a really, really harsh word, but hey, I'm walking, and if you're a mile behind me and you're thinking about going the direction I just went, maybe just skip that and you'll be faster, farther along for it.
I think, I'm thinking of the most recent moments of really feeling challenged and like, wow, like what is going on? That was this morning during my quiet time reflection, sitting at that desk, like right over there. And, our business is so different today than before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And marketing in general is so different. And there are a lot of new challenges. And I look at where our business is going, and I'm very excited about where we're going. I look at, where we've been for the past, really couple of years, and it's just been really, really hard. And it's just been this like constant, I think, refining, and being refined doesn't feel super good. Our team, I had 2 guys that had worked with me for a combined 19 years. And over the past 2.5 years, they both have left. And so like what was my heartbeat for the longest time, the thing that made me so excited was the team that I had built, that had been around, that knew my family and I knew their family, and we'd had all these shared experiences over these time. And then these guys leave, and then I have this new vision for where I want to take the company, and it's different, and so it's like new uncharted territory. And I'm kind of feeling the pinch of like we're at the end of the year, and there's a couple of big jobs that I've been kind of holding out on, thinking that we were going to land, and we haven't landed them yet. And I'm just like, dear God, like what is going on? Like I thought this would be, at this point, 19 years into business, I thought it would be a little bit easier. And it's I think as I understand better what I get excited about, what I'm passionate about, what I'm good at, I'm sort of okay with the challenge, because I think what's to come is going to be so much better. It's just in the moment, or it just kind of feels like, whew, I think I can do it. I think I can get through this because I know what's coming.
Golly, dude. Well, I was actually, my last question I was just going to say was like, hey, any final words of encouragement or wisdom? But I really feel like you kind of just packaged deal that thing right in there. That's, what else is there after that? Because that's it. I mean, there are times that are hard for people, but knowing that this is the stuff that makes you what you're going to be on the other side of that, what's better? That's incredible.
Yeah. I would say, if I could, the thing that I learned, or that I'm learning, especially just in the past few months of me realizing that this new venture, over the last 11 years, I worked really hard to build a better business. And so what that's meant is that I haven't been on production nearly as much as I used to be. shooting, and I'm definitely not editing, and the day-to-day stuff that goes on at the studio, I don't really have a voice for. I've got a team that's doing the things, and I realized that with this project, with this documentary, hanging out with Coach Pleasant and these people who mean so much to me, being able to interview Coach Pleasant and being able to interview other people that are a part of his story. I mean, it was so inspiring. And so I just realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, the thing that got me into this work, I've kind of sacrificed in order to try to build a better business, a more streamlined business, more predictable business. And then I haven't been doing the thing that really brings me to life. It's not like, well, let's build this process so we don't ever have to do that again. Like, that's good and that's helpful and that saves us time, but that doesn't get me super excited. Yeah. What gets me excited is sitting across from somebody and having them tell me what they care about and why they care and how they want to make a difference in the world, and the stories of them actually doing that. And so I think my encouragement to people is to really take the time to look at, where are you at today, and is that the thing that's lighting you up and getting you excited? Because you have to make time for that. If you don't make time for that, you're going to spend years, hand raised, you're going to spend years building something that might not actually be the thing that you want to be built, but you're just doing it by default. You're doing it because you're not seeing anything else. And, I think being in a mastermind, having close friends that I'm in conversation with, and inviting people in, people hear me talk and they're like, dude, like when you talk about this thing, you light up. But when you talk about that, like, you can just, like, the temperature in the room changes. It's like, listen to those things, like, figure out, like, why is that? And I would say right now, I mean, I just feel like you can't beat me. Like, I am so on fire and so excited for this new venture that, you could tell me anything, like, oh, it's going to fail, you're not going to, I'd be like, no, it will work. And I'm going to be doing what is making me come alive. And you put that in an entrepreneur, somebody that's, wants to figure out how to make this into a living, like, look out, because coming to get you.
I will say too, for anybody that's interested, finds themselves inspired maybe by this conversation, that your next round of Mastermind is taking enrollment or applications for 2024. And anything else they need to know about that in order to kind of be best equipped to see whether or not it's for them, or other ways that people can contact you too if they're interested?
Yeah. The Mastermind really is for video business owners. So if you don't own a video business, or that's not on your radar, then it should be a pass for you. But if you are, then go to studiosherpas.com/mastermind, and you can learn more about the Mastermind there. My email is probably a great way for people to reach out if they had questions or anything like that. It's just Ryan, RYAN, at tellstudios.com, TELL studios.com. And I do have like a video marketing email thing. So if you want to do more video, you want like a better office setup, or you want like better editing software ideas, like, I love sharing tools that I use, and I'm a creator too. So we have this production company, but then I've got, things that I'm trying to create for social that really is kind of different. I'm using my phone a lot for stuff. I'm using other editing apps, not Adobe Premiere, for these this kind of like content creator stuff. So if you want video related tips, tricks kind of thing, then you can download or sign up for our video marketing success secrets. And that's at tellstudios.com/baby crying in the background.
My bad.
Oh wait, no, it's tellstudios.com/secrets. So you can share your email and you'll get a series of emails that are, I think, good things that will help you in your video creation et cetera, et cetera. Also on LinkedIn and Instagram at Ryan Koral.
That's fantastic. And I think my entry point for you was Studio Sherpas did a 100K, six figures webinar workshop where you kind of walk people through some steps for if you're interested in kind of making your way and that's your next step. That's a really cool thing to check out as well. Ryan, This is awesome. I'm really grateful. Thank you for your authenticity too. That's, honestly, that's part of what, drew me in your direction is you're approachable and you're relatable and you tell what seems to be a really real story. It's like, I appreciate that about you. And I think that is hard to reproduce online. And that sometimes is a really great secret sauce to have. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you. My pleasure.
And our thanks to all of you for listening. If you're looking for a quick way to make our day, a review in iTunes or subscribing to this podcast would mean the world to us. Our thanks to Small Pond Productions for sponsoring. And this was The Pro Guide. Learn from leaders, change your life. See you, everybody.